Hey, welcome back to another episode of It's a Football Thing, or It's a Euro Thing, should we say. I'm your host, RJ, and as always, I'm joined by my two champion co-hosts, Rob the Red Devil and Scott the Gooner. How are you, champions?
Good, mate. Again, pumped. It's been an exciting week of European football.
Before we start, boys, just
Drink water, mate.
to the good people at Coca-Cola, Cristiano may not want your patronage, but here at the IFT podcast, you are more than welcome to sponsor us. Cheers.
Scott, you're such a gooner. For those that are joining us via audio only or via podcast, you haven't had a chance or an opportunity to see what Scott's done. He's pulled out the old Coke trick and made reference to the cheeky Ronaldo Coke water substitute. But for those who have joined us last week on YouTube, thank you for those who subscribed. It started off with a bit of a bang, and I think it's safe to say, boys, we've got quite a good reception to it. So we're going to kick on for the rest of the Euros via the YouTube and podcast route. Tonight's episode will be a focus on the Matchday 1 results, unpacking all of that, some of the key headlines in each group, going through the player that stood out for us, and of course, going through the question of the week, which we've got a fair few decent responses from our loyal listeners. So, Scott, maybe we can get started.
Yeah, let's start by recapping, boys. What a match day one. In all seriousness, I had a couple of people say to me who listened to the pod, we thought you hate international football. Look, I'm going to clarify some of those comments. I dislike meaningless international football. When these tournaments roll around, it's all or nothing. And we saw that straight away with Group A. We got together. Robbie picked us up at 3:30 in the morning, made our way to Club Marconi, a famous Italian footballing stomping ground. And boys, wasn't that a cracker of a morning?
Mate, what a morning, mate.
Yeah, good breakfast, some pepperoni pizzas, some other
25
stuff.
coffees or so. It was great.
Absolutely, and Italy really kicked that off with a bang. I don't think any of us were surprised, but I was stunned by just how dominant they were. I'll leave the breakdown of that result to you boys, being Italians.
Robbie, why don't you tell us first?
Yeah, well, you know me, boys. You watched it with me. You know I'm the worst person to watch a game with. Very pessimistic, but look, I said I was quietly confident as well. It did take. Have to say, Turkey did sit very deep, and I think paid us a lot more respect than I thought they were. Obviously, I talked them up quite a bit. And we went into half-time at 0-0, and I was starting to stress, the clock's going to start stressing us out a bit and put a bit more pressure. First game, at home, and everyone's been talking us up as the dark horses of the tournament and stuff. So, yeah, I just wanted to get that kind of first goal. And then as soon as that kind of first goal came, man, I said the game's going to change now. If Turkey they were clearly playing for the point, and I said if they want to get a point now, they're going to have to come out and chase it. And we just opened them up, and mate, we had all the possession, we had all the passing, some nice another 2 goals to add on. So we've got the 3 goals all up, and what can I say? A perfect match, mate. 3 points, 3 goals, and a clean sheet. So I was wrapped off the bat.
Well, I think it's safe to say that last week I was the most confident heading into that match. I think I was the only one who predicted the win, just to give myself a pat on the back. But look, again, I felt confident. We went out there and played the way I thought we were going to play. I know Turkey, like you said, Rob, had a very clear strategy that was not to lose, but unfortunately that backfired on them massively. And once the first goal came in, it opened up the floodgate because it caused them to change their game plan. But I think we were saying, Scott and I, that unfortunately Turkey didn't plan for us to break down their blocks of 4 or 5 at the back. And once that happened, they didn't really have a response to what was wave after wave of the Azzurri attack. I want to give a special praise to a few players in the Azzurri. Firstly, Spinazzola, man of the match, superb effort in the wing-back position or in the defensive areas, but also our midfield. You had Locatelli, Jorginho, Chelsea superstar, and of course, I thought my boy, Barella, who I predicted to be player of the tournament, he didn't get on the score sheet or anything, but he looks pretty lively at times with some very deft touches. And it was nice to see Immobile and Insigne, our front men, get on the score sheet as well. So, like you said, pretty complete performance. We did get frustrated at times, but 3-0, couldn't ask for anything better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to leave that with the experts because you two have broken that down really well. The other game was Wales, Switzerland, ended in a draw. Can't say I saw all of this match, but not shocked by the result. Did any of you boys manage to catch this one?
Yeah, I watched this one. I wish I didn't. It was not the greatest game to watch, but I can say it was very a very dominant performance from Switzerland. So for Wales to get a 1-1 draw and a point out of this, it was, like I said, very one-sided affair. It's just that there wasn't enough quality in finishing for Switzerland. So for us, I reckon that was a great result for Italy for them having a draw. So I will take it.
It's similar in the sense of, sorry, Scott, I was just going to say on that, what I saw a similarity between that and the Italy-Turkey game was that Switzerland were like Italy from the perspective of were very much in control of the play, had a lot of the ball. Wales were quite standoffish, although they started off quite brightly, to be fair. Wales did start off the better of the two, but then Switzerland quickly found their feet and grew into the game. I think if I'm a Swiss fan, and I know a couple of fans I interact with on Twitter, I know that they were quite disappointed with that result, given how good they played overall. So 1 point gained for Wales and 2 points dropped, I'd say, for Switzerland.
And just quickly, just in that game, one guy that did catch my eye that I will be watching tomorrow against us is that Mbolo. He really kicked in the gear. And, he's quite strong. He didn't, like I said, not a quality finisher, but he'll be someone I want the boys to watch out for tomorrow.
Easy, and we'll look at some predictions a little bit later on for how we think that'll go. Group B, we all thought Belgium were going to dominate this group. We were all kind of in agreement for once that would be the case. And they were absolutely dominant, starting off with a 3-0 win against Russia. Boys, I don't think there was anything that happened in this game that would have surprised us. Probably could have been some more goals. Lukaku was lethal, carrying on that brilliant club form that he's shown at Inter. And that might be a little bit of the influence of King Thierry Henry, who's been doing some mentoring with him. If he can be half as good as Thierry, he's done pretty well. But Belgium were dominant, but I think another side to that story was just how poor Russia were. I was actually quite shocked with their lack of intensity, the fact that they didn't threaten too much. They looked very shaky at the back. I was quite disappointed in their performance, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Scott. I think what I'd say, Group B for Belgium, Lukaku, if he had a few more minutes, he would have been rushing for a hat trick, so to speak. And what can I say? You say he might be inspired a little bit by Thierry Henry. I think he might be inspired about returning to Stamford Bridge and trying to show his worth. Who knows? But overall, what I think surprised me the most was around Belgium I'd classify them more of a top-heavy team in terms of from the midfield up, they're world-class. Got some great players in the midfield and attacking regions. And yes, they've got some experience at the back, but I wouldn't necessarily rate them as in the same pedigree as what like a Chiellini or a Bonucci or like the Van Dijks of the world. They're reasonable, but they're not great. So I was expecting a little bit more questions to be asked from Russia, but they just, completely forgot to turn up. And some of that's got to go to the way Belgium pinned them back. But once the first goal came in, then the second, it just became all too comfortable for the Belgians. So, it was a pretty one-sided affair, I've got to say.
Yeah. Robbie, did you have anything to add on that one, mate, or have we hit the nail on the head?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, I was just obviously I've got money on Lukaku for top goal scorer, so I was cheering that he got a double in that game. And just their formation also, they're playing with a 5-2-3, so it's a bit of a different formation. Obviously, their wing backs were really doing a good job, especially obviously Meunier came on and got a goal and assist. So just they've got really good depth as well. And we have to remember that was without De Bruyne, and I think it was a 20-minute cameo from Hazard. So this next game week should be a cracker.
Yeah, very good. And look, also in that group, there was the God, I don't even know what the word is. It was just shocking and really grounding, the incident with Christian Eriksen collapsing with the cardiac arrest. I'm really grateful I didn't see this live, because from what I did see, it was just shocking, but an absolute credit to his teammates, the medical staff, the referee, because they all played their parts absolutely perfectly.
Yeah.
And have one of those links there not played their part perfectly, we could be telling a whole different story. So, to me that was gut wrenching what happened. Even though he's an ex-Spurs player, that kind of stuff doesn't matter. It all goes out the window when you see someone in that situation. I don't know what your thoughts were on that, boys, but yeah, it was gut wrenching, and so glad that he's on the mend.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I was up and watching it live, man, and like you said, just shocked, like to see something happen out of nowhere. Like he was literally running around the field. Next minute, a throw in, he went to gather the ball and just dropped me out of nowhere. Like, and like you said, Scotty, like the referee was within like 2 seconds. Bang, medical staff was on. They turned him over so he didn't swallow his tongue, and like obviously acting swiftly and stuff. But it was just everyone was in awe. It was like, the stadium went quiet. It was just crazy because no one knew what was happening. Obviously, it was nice that his teammates kind of guarded up from all the cameras, so no one could give him they got a bit of privacy there. But mate, as from what the team doctor said a couple of days later, they lost him, mate, for even if it was for a few seconds. Cardiac arrest, his heart stopped. They lost him. Obviously, they brought him back, and mate, I was just literally refreshing my Twitter feed every 30 seconds, just trying to get information, because it took about half an hour before anyone even knew is he alive or anything. Like obviously, like the cameras kind of crossed to the studios and stuff like that, and no one knew anything. So, mate, thank God, like I said, that he's alive and he's okay. Obviously, I'm sure we've all seen him in the hospital bed. He sent a message out to everyone, giving a thumbs up. So, mate, it's crazy. Thank God he's all right.
Yeah, no, not too much more to add. I think it just shows you just sometimes we love watching the sport. We're passionate about it, but sometimes there's bigger things in football, and the fragility of life at times is so precarious, and we just got to be thankful for what we have. And the most important thing is that Christian is fine. His family can take comfort in the fact that the rapid response from the referee, the medical team, everybody played their role and played it superbly to make sure that this was just simply a near miss and avoided a catastrophic disaster. So, I wouldn't even want to contemplate had that gone belly up and all of a sudden you've got a tournament potentially that's in total disarray. So, look, from transitioning to a football point of view, I have to give credit for Denmark for even having the stomachs to play on. It obviously affected them psychologically, and they did lose in the end 1-0. It is one of those situations, I think, from a footballing standpoint, the officials their hands are tied from this perspective of they can't defer it too much because it has too many flow-on effects for the rest of the tournament. But at the same time, it's a win-lose outcome because the poor, Danes, unfortunately, have to suffer as a result of that traumatic experience. But that's the nature of these things. These are, freak occurrences that are very difficult to anticipate. Everybody's just got to roll on with it. But again, as long as he's okay, and that's all we can ask for.
Absolutely. Boys, let's move on to the next group. And I think, my personal opinion, the match of the the best match of match day 1.
100%.
Netherlands.
Yeah.
What a game. RJ, what were your thoughts on that one, man?
Wow, what a firecracker. If there was an endorsement for a tournament international football, just throw this game on to start off, because the narratives, the cracking goals, the dramatic quick-fire comeback, it was a showcase of the best parts of international football. It's not always about the top end of town. It's about the players that play for their countries and the passion they show. And I just thought some of the goals in that match and the way that it swung back and forth, and even the dramatic winner, like it had everything that you'd want to promote the world game. So I just thought, what a superb effort. That Yarmolenko effort, wow, what a goal. I don't know if anybody got a chance. Everybody's going to be talking about the Schick Spectacular, but that's right up there as well in terms of a contender that's not far behind. What did you boys think?
It's a few yards behind, isn't it? Wasn't Schick's from
in terms of quality, perhaps.
Yeah. Robbie, do you have any thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, like I said, RJ pretty much summed it up. But like I said, I agree. The whole match for me was entertainment. The first half ended in a 0-0 draw, but like I said, there was just a little bit of lacking quality because there could have been 2 to 3, 4 goals in the first half. It just wasn't that finishing touch. But like I said, I think it was 35 minutes, 5 goals in the second half, and as I said last week, I've talked highly. I've had Ukraine top in this group, so when they got back to a draw, I was like, they'll take that point, and for like obviously it was nice for Netherlands to get the winner in the end, but I still reckon Ukraine can get out of this group, man.
Yeah.
They've got the players there, and I think they'll go hard for the next one.
And I don't see why not, because when you look at, Austria did exactly what I expected. I expected them to dominate North Macedonia, and they did. So, I don't think there's a lot of super tough competition in there. Was this the game with Goran Pandev?
Yep.
Goran
Yeah,
Pandev
37. What a shout out. 37, and you capitalise. What a professional. I know we talk
Absolutely.
about other players, but what a legend in terms of his own country. Great, good on him.
Mate, I'm 34 and have trouble getting ready for work in the morning most days, and he's got a few years on me, and he's scoring goals in international football. Did I just say I'm 34 as well? I can't even remember my age, man. 32, and he's scoring
You're
goals.
skipping a few years.
Yeah, it's what happens when you start to lose the hair, Arch, isn't it? You'd know.
I don't know what you're talking about, mate. But this is a choice, first of all. Secondly, I just thought on that Ukraine-Netherlands game, I thought that the fact that Netherlands stole it in the end, I thought that a draw would have been a fair result in that game. But just goes to show you, it's not about what's fair. It's about who's lucky and who's good enough to pounce when it ultimately matters. So credit must be given to Netherlands in the end, because they could have easily bottled that, but they didn't. So yeah, credit to them.
And they've got some attacking quality. They've got some attacking flair. In that team, it's more at the defensive end that I'd kind of worry about them. But I mean, that they looked pretty sharp, and they got that deciding goal when it mattered. And some teams in that situation go into their shell. They'll start to lock down. They'll settle for the draw. But credit to them for going out and getting that winner, because a lot of teams wouldn't have pushed for that in the opening match.
And that could be massive at the end of match days as well, man. That extra goal to get the points there.
For sure. Look, let's have a look. Boys, I have 3 words to say. It's coming home. That's what I'm hearing all over Twitter after that 1-0 win over Croatia. Our friends over in the UK seem to think it's coming home. Watching that game, I thought England were okay. They did what I expected them to do. I didn't expect them to play, football with a whole heap of flair. I was shocked to see Grealish not starting in that game. I thought he's one of their most dangerous weapons, but I can also understand that when you've got, Phil Foden and RJ's boy, Mason Mount, I can see why maybe he didn't start. But yeah, Sterling got that goal, but he didn't bring his shooting boots outside of that, did he?
Yeah.
No, not a sterling effort in many respects, to be honest with you. I thought, if anything, had he not scored that goal, the headline for him would have been very different. But, to his credit, he chipped away and he got the goal. But I felt there was a couple of other players that on a different day might have made that margin a bit more comfortable, because from the outset, I felt that England brought a lot more dynamism. They were more aggressive with their play and their press. But there were a couple of selection choices there. You highlighted Grealish and up top. For me, I actually think in terms of left and right back with Kyle Walker and Trippier, I thought Chilwell was very, very unlucky not to be given a nod. I can understand Walker's got a bit more experience and he's in a Premier League winning team, so Reece James might be the victim of that. But I dare say, in speaking to some of my good English friends here and overseas, I wouldn't be surprised if both Trippier and Kyle Walker were both making way for those two respectively. But overall, again, as you said, my boy Mason Mount, even though Calvin Phillips deservedly got all the plaudits because he was sensational, I thought Mason Mount equally had a pretty strong game and had a couple of passes that should have really led to 1 or 2 assists at least. So happy for him to continue his great form.
Robbie?
Yeah, like I said, I thought like I said, when I seen the lineups an hour before kickoff, I was like a lot of other people saying, "Geez, man, Southgate, what's he done here? You know, not playing his best team." But look, man, they got the job done, and like I said, for a little stat, that's England's first opening Euros win ever. So that's something to get off their back and something different for them. I thought Croatia was quite flat, you know, like England came out of the blocks, like I said, 5 minutes in, Phil Foden smashes against the post. Unlucky not to be one up there. And like I said, as the best I can describe the game is a comfortable 1-0. I just thought that overall England did have control majority of the game. There was a couple waves of an attack every now and then from Croatia, but yeah, I thought England deserved it. And yeah, the only other thing, like I said, is just a few of the people that were left out, completely left out from the bench. Even like I said, Chilwell and Sancho, for me, I really thought they might have possibly started, at least be on the bench anyway. But yeah, they got the job done, and like I said, on to the next game for them.
Something
Can I
that's
just say, Scott, I just want to
yeah,
mention one thing here about Croatia. I was expecting more from them, especially with their midfield. I love their midfield in terms of Modric, Kovacic, and Brozovic from Inter. But I think the way in which the speed of the game got them out of the game, they weren't allowing the likes of Modric to really dictate the tempo. And I'll get him, even though he was in a more advanced position, Modric, he wasn't able to affect the game the way he would have liked. So I think Southgate should get some credit for basically neutralising their threats. The one thing I think works against Croatia, I think, is the fact that they don't have as much potency up top. Like Rebic
absolutely.
was quite wasteful. He had a couple of half chances in that first half when England were missing them by the dozen, and they on another day in a better sort of finisher, the game becomes a lot more complicated. But I think that's going to be a bit of a sticky point for them. So it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back.
Yeah,
And
man.
for me,
No,
you don't go deep into this tournament with Rebic up front.
yeah,
I just don't think he's got the quality that Croatia would need to progress. I think their best chance at winning a big international tournament was that World Cup final. I feel like they're past their best at the moment. I don't see them on the way up, to be honest. And I mean, there are a few things with England. You mentioned before, Robbie, did Southgate start his best team? I actually don't think he knows his best team. To be completely blunt, he seems to chop and change so much. And I actually, to me, Harry Kane didn't look fully fit.
no.
Um, he's
Because
still a cut above the rest, but he didn't look fully fit and sharp to me.
yeah, no, I
So
agree with that. It wasn't on point
But
that game.
it's yeah, yeah. No, I was just going to
it,
say, I
it,
thought about the starting 11. Was it his best? Does he know his best? And I questioned their defenders. I think one thing Southgate is known for is his trust and reliance on experience, and that's why he picks the likes of Trippier's and the Kyle Walkers of the world because of their experience, and obviously trusting Raheem Sterling and Harry Kane, of course. But I wonder also if there's a bit of thinking about if we can just safely manage to get a good result against Croatia, it'll allow him to flex and rotate against seemingly lesser opposition. So you're more likely to bring in the Grealishes and the Sanchos now against your Czechs and your Scots. So this could be a masterstroke from Gareth. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I agree with you, Arj.
the other game in that group was the Czech Republic beating Scotland 2-0. It was a chic performance.
Holy sheik.
That look again, Scotland to me were relatively underwhelming. I actually said in our preview that I thought they might be a little bit of a dark horse in terms of progressing, not winning the tournament, but progressing a little bit further. But man, going off that, there's not much that reassures me I'm not going to look silly in a few weeks.
Look, I'm going to give them the next match day. Like, I know it's against England, but for me, Kieran Tierney missing was massive for them. They didn't have, like I said, no Billy Gilmore in their midfield. And like I said, no Shea Adams up top. So I thought there was a few kind of big players for them that were missing. And like I said, if maybe they were playing a Czech this week, it could be different if it had a full squad. But like I said, up against the might of England, I think it's going to be a bit too much for him.
Kieran Tierney is a huge miss, Robbie. You mentioned some other kid. Who was it? Happy Gilmore. What'd you say? Who was it?
Yeah,
The Scottish Iniesta, he said.
Yeah.
I can't honestly say I've heard of him. Who's he play for?
The champions of Europe.
I only know he plays for Chelsea because of RJ.
Well played. Has he had a minute this season or what? Or is he,
No, he's had a few games, and I think for the Scotland game, what I will say is, even though obviously I'm big props on Billy, I don't know if his profile actually changes the game too much in the sense. Actually, you said underwhelming, Scott. I only think the only thing for me that was underwhelming was their lack of finishing, because even in the stats, they came out, they were all over the Czechs. Like they completely pinned them back. They looked more energetic. They had 15 shots off target and 4 on target versus 3 off target and 7 on target from the Czechs. Because again, it's just this common theme across Matchday 1 about those that are more efficient. Those that are more efficient are the ones that are going to be walking away with a big smile. And obviously, Schick had a couple of big smiles. But for me, Scotland, you said it, Robbie. I agree with you. We'll give them another game. Unfortunately, it's going to be up against the might of England. But
it's a big rivalry.
Yeah, it is. But I think similarly to Croatia, Scotland's undoing is the fact that they haven't got any potency up top. So they're going to have to get goals from elsewhere. And I don't know who they're going to get it from. I actually thought Aston Villa's, I think he's from Aston Villa, John McGinn was very good for Villa. Him and McTominay were quite strong and were really robust in that middle. So that I think what they'll bring against England, they'll bring that intensity. They'll make it uncomfortable for them. But I don't know if, again, they're going to, for the few opportunities they create, it's just a matter of can they convert. But hopefully the Scots will channel their inner William Wallace and Braveheart and get the win. So we'll have to see for them.
To me, if Matchday 1 has taught me anything, controversial comment, possession is the most overrated stat in modern football, mate.
100%.
I watched Arsenal for years dominate possession, but not get 3
Spain
points.
would disagree with that.
I was just about to say you must be talking about Spain, yeah?
Like, in all seriousness, to me, you're not dominating unless you're putting it in the back of the net. So the Czech Republic did that. So they got the points. They earned those points. The theme of Matchday 1 for me was possession doesn't mean a thing. So
the theme for me from Matchday 1 was all the big boys stood up, man.
Absolutely, which just speaks in wonders to what the rest of the tournament's got in store for us. Looking at the next group, we have Group E with Slovakia, Sweden, Spain, and Poland. Robbie, you have called and been pretty critical about Poland, saying that they keep getting a rap in international tournaments, but Lewandowski, who to me is probably the best front man in the world, doesn't stand up for them. And we saw Slovakia get a great result for them, 2-1 against Poland.
And like I said, it's not me being a football know-it-all, it's just stats. And like I said, me, I love Robert Lewandowski, one of my favourite strikers. But like you said the other week, man, a Bayern Lewandowski and a Polish Lewandowski, it's just different. It's a different game. It's different service. And like I said, he hasn't got a good record with the international squad in the major tournaments. Yeah, he cleans up in the qualifying, but yeah, like I'm sure none of us would have predicted, for the end of Matchday 1 for Slovakia to be on top of that table. So
absolutely, yeah.
And that was a great game from them, man, from Slovakia. Like they stood up and there was 1-1, and was it Skriniar that got the winner, I think, in that game? And I don't know if you guys seen that goal, but for a centre back, not a bad finish, mate.
He's good. He's very strong technically for Inter. And that's honestly, he's pretty underrated because everybody talks about him and his dogged nature of his pure defending, but he's actually quite good on the ball. So yeah, I'm not too surprised, to be fair.
I'm a big fan of him. As I've said before, I've always wanted him to come to United. That's how much I rate him.
Could do a lot worse there, but I think building on that Lewandowski theme, we're all big fans of him, and I think it's pretty unfair to compare the Bayern Munich service versus the Poland service. No disrespect, but they are, by the last 5 years at least, the best team in Europe. Not currently, as we all know that is, but again, I feel sorry for him. I do. I do question though whether or not when they start talking about him in the same category as certain other GOAT nominees, if this is the kind of thing that puts him on that layer below, And where I'm going with that is people like Ronaldo, people like Messi, yeah, they might not win too many major tournaments, even though Ronaldo's slowly edging on that one. They somehow seem to find a way to still have that positive impact. Whereas Lewandowski, he's so lethal, but he's contingent on having that good team behind to help him be lethal. So it's just one of those things that, puts him probably one tier below those two guys. But, I was very happy for Slovakia. And the Sweden-Spain game, what did you guys think of that?
I probably fell asleep about 58 times during it.
Mate, I don't know how there wasn't a goal in that game. Simple as that. It's just, Spain had nearly 1,000 passes, and as Gotti was saying, possession means nothing if you don't put the ball in the back of the net, mate, because there should have been quite a few goals in that game, and you said, as we said last week, Mr. Morata didn't do much.
But even Sweden, they could have had their own. They really could have scored it. And that Isaac, that's right. He was really strong, and had his strike partner found his shooting boots from 2 yards away, it's a whole different ball game. Again, it's just that whole efficiency in front of goal. But it's that whole possession without purpose equals counterproductive, in my opinion. So I think one of our good friends that follows us, that Chelsea pod, called it a bit of a Sarri ball problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was a crack. I can't remember the exact wording of his comment, but it was an absolute cracker. Boys, I'm going to put a little bit of a scenario to you, and I want you to really think carefully about your answer. If you had to, bet your life savings on one of these two players to score a clinical match-winning goal, which one would you put it on? We're going with Timo Werner for Chelsea. We're going for Alvaro Morata for Spain. Robbie, who would you put your money on, mate? Because they both couldn't hit a barn door.
I'm going to go for Morata, mate. He's a Juve player, and I've seen him stand up in big games. He has. He doesn't do it late. He hasn't done it lately. I know he didn't do it for Chelsea as well, but I have seen him in big games. He has played in Champions League finals, and he's been a Champions League winner. And even with Juve, he's scored some important goals before. So he just needs to, practice a bit more and put them away. But I'm happy. I'm more than happy for him to be missing plenty for Spain this tournament.
I would probably just put the money in a big pile, and like in Batman: The Dark Knight with the Joker, I would probably just set it on fire. I think you have a better chance of the money quadrupling out of the ashes than one of those two scoring an important goal.
Well, I'll tell you this: you'd put your money on Timo Werner if the offside rule didn't exist, because he's got plenty of disallowed goals. But I know that's not a thing. Yeah, but you know what? I'd actually put a little spin on that. I'd say put your money on Werner if you want the goal, because what he will do is he'll round the keeper, run to the byline and cut it back in, and someone else will score, because he creates a lot of assists, unfortunately. So, yeah, I think he's much better than Morata, to be fair, but who knows?
He's the best centre mid in the game at the moment, to be honest.
Absolutely, the Cam.
Let's move on. Let's look at the group of death. Personally, I have a vested interest in this group. This is the one that I was most looking forward to. We might start with Mr. Coca-Cola himself, though. He really, did what he had to do. Bagged a couple of goals. Of course, one was a penalty. I'm sure Portuguese Jonjo was upset that he didn't get the penalty. That's all he's known for. But, I would just explain that as a comfortable performance of Portugal, tidy performance.
No, I wouldn't, man. I would disagree with that completely.
Okay, go on. Why?
I got up for that game and watched the entirety of it, and mate, I'm sure you would have seen on your thing, it was 86th minute and it was nil all this score. It was just a bit of a collapse in the last 7 minutes of the game. Hungary actually done really well in front of a full stadium. They, I have to admit, in the first half they were quite negative and just defended really, really well. And plus, some like I said, Ronaldo for one didn't have his shooting boots on, and he missed a sitter from a couple of yards out, which was unlucky. But second half, Hungary really did come out. They actually put the ball in the back of the net. Unlucky for them, it got ruled offside. That would have been 1-0.
It was off.
No. Oh, no, that's what I said. But they did come out and have a crack at him. And like I said, I think once they got into that 10 minutes ago, they said, hey, I want a nil all and a 1 point against Portugal would have been a massive result for them. But yeah, like I said, they dropped the ball 5 to 7 minutes before halftime, and then, like I said, Portugal, once they got one, it was just 3 goals in 6 minutes or something. And like I said, good on him. Ronaldo scored the double after he got the second and third. But like I said, for me, it wasn't a comfortable and easy match from what it looks like.
I guess for me, when I say comfortable, I kind of think about the Italy-Turkey game a little bit. And let me explain what I mean by that. You know how when we were watching it together, Robbie, the whole time you were basically on the verge of a stroke or a heart attack. You were complaining about everything. You were whinging. And I kept saying to you, I said, it's coming, mate. Italy are going to take this. The goal is coming. Turkey are going to get tired. There's going to be a mistake. Lo and behold, it happened. I guess when I say comfortable, I probably should have used different terminology. I don't mean that Portugal kind of smashed it from the first minute to the last, but I always kind of felt, I didn't feel that Portugal weren't going to win the game. The first half, I thought Hungary weren't in it too much, and I thought after that first half, they've put so much energy into not conceding in this first 45 that there's going to be a mistake and there's going to be a crack. So when I say comfortable, probably not the best terms, but that's kind of where I was getting with that. I don't know if you had any thoughts on it, Arj.
Yeah, look, it's probably a little bit in between. It's like you said, Scott, comfortable is probably not the word, but I think you're confident that the result was never in doubt, despite Hungary's great resilience and their few moments where they could have reasonably pinched a lead. Overall, from the eye test, I didn't think Hungary would win the match. I could have easily seen a draw happening, how the way things were unfolding. I wasn't as confident as you, Scott, that they were going to nab it in the end. But when you've got the likes of Ronaldo up front, I can understand why people would feel confident that enough times you knock on the door, it's going to open. And I think that's what happened there in the end. And yeah, you get a bit of luck and that happens. But ultimately, what can I say? They were just hungry enough, more than hungry themselves. So look, closer game. The result wasn't, it was 3-0 in the end, but a 3-0 Italy versus Turkey, a 3-0 Belgium.
Yeah.
That wasn't a 3-0 result, put it that way. Even though it wasn't.
Agreed. Looking at this is the match I was, for very obvious reasons, looking forward to most, France, Germany. And in watching that, I thought it was just a fantastic game of football. There were so many classy players in both lineups, and neither team came out, I thought, with fear. We saw two teams that were willing to have a go at each other, two teams that wanted to win and understood that with the structure of this group, you needed to make the most of your chances. And I thought the midfield performance of France from Paul Pogba and N'Golo Kante, thank God those two don't play together in the Premier League, because Kante he brings out the best in Pogba. You could tell Pogba was not playing that game with fear. He put in beautiful ball for the goal. He was really crisp in his passing and his control and his movement. And Kante did what Kante does. He cleaned up. He did the hard work, but he also made some really good forward runs and some good attacking passes. I thought those two really stood out for me, and they're the reasons why France put on the pressure, got lucky with an own goal. But I do think on the balance of play, France were deserved winners. Don't know your thoughts.
Do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, look, it's probably right. I think once France took the lead, which was very fortuitous, it has to be said, it played into their hands, because they then could just rely on absorbing pressure and using speed to hit Germany on the counter. So I dare say, had that not been the result going into half time, you'd probably see a lot more tenseness about it. But to Germany's credit, they didn't just go over and die wondering. I thought they did try to take the game to France, but France has a very strong solidity about them. They've got at the back, they're very difficult to break down. I felt Kai Havertz, he was trying to inject himself in the game and Gnabry, but the way that Varane and Kimpembe and the way that they were working together, and again, Kante shielding them, working nicely with his pivot partner, which is 28 games unbeaten now and 22 wins, 6 draws apparently. They just continue to find a way and they continue to demonstrate that they're here for real. But I don't think that a 1-0 loss is going to be too demoralising for Germany, because we've seen France, they could have blown teams apart. I know that France did have 2 disallowed goals, which were both correct because they were both offside. But what concerns me as a non-France supporter is the levels that they can continue to go. So they, to me, showed that they were in a third gear, even though Germany were pressing pretty aggressively to try to find an equaliser. But yeah, agreed. Deserved result in the end.
Yeah, I have to agree. There's not much you boys have said that I don't agree with. Like I said as well, like you said, I can. Third gear is probably a perfect example of their game, man. Because for me, like I said, once they got their goal, like that second half, Germany really just pushed, and they were just sitting back and absorbing the pressure. But they didn't look like they were going to crack. Even people like Griezmann were coming back and helping defense. And that's me. I really like it how they kind of just have trust in their defense and their midfielders, and they were just leaving people like Mbappe so close to that halfway line, waiting for a break. And like I said, if it wasn't for a few millimeters or maybe a bit more than that, like I said, it could have been 2 or 3. And that's where they're going to get you, man. They've got speed up front, quick breakaway, and like I said, a link up between him and Benzema. Like, I know they're both ruled off, but I have to say both of those disallowed goals were nice. That the finish from Mbappe was class, and like I said, the link up play from Pogba to Mbappe to Benzema for the third, mate. In the future, that's going to be a goal, and that's going to kill teams off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think, Scott? Do you think we saw a bit of a preview of Benzema linking up nicely with his Real Madrid teammate Mbappe? Or
you want me to be completely honest? Or do you want me to?
For once, that would be nice. For once, that would be good.
Controversial comment again, and it might be because I'm watching a lot of these games with the team.
Please.
No, it's not. Well, hey, that's a dream, but it's just that a dream. I actually was really underwhelmed by Benzema. I thought he was really sloppy in attack. I didn't think he held the ball up as well as someone like Giroud would. And I would like to see this team with Giroud starting. Benzema, for me this morning, didn't produce what I wanted him to produce. But in saying that, there is a little bit of controversy in the camp, with Giroud having spoken out about some teammates, and there's rumoured to be some kind of beef between him and Mbappe. And if you're the manager and it comes down to keeping Mbappe happy or Giroud happy, well, he's going to sit on the bench, isn't he? So interesting, but I was happy with France. I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring out. Boys, there were so many players who had cracking performances during match day 1. Just maybe one player that really stood out for you. I know it's hard to say one, but we can't be here for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's hard. So many games. Look, I'm just going to say, first one that comes to mind, I have to say, I thought, was it Kevin Phillips from England? I thought his performance in the England game was, I don't think a lot of people expected that. I don't think a lot of people expected him to start, but mate, he had a cracker game. I think he might have got man of the match, got the assist, and was just a workhorse. So yeah, I'm just going off the top of my head, I'm going to have to pick him.
He actually Sterling got man of the match officially, I think. One of the sources, but yeah, I think the consensus was Phillips should have got it, but I picked him. Who do I think? It's hard for me to look past. There's 2 players, and it's pretty generic, but they're both attacking, both Schick and Lukaku, because not only they score doubles, but it's the convincing nature in which they put their goals away. So I thought, if I had to pick one player, I'd go with Schick, just because of the quality and the different nature of his finishes was sublime.
For me, I'm breaking the rules again. I've been a little bit off with the fairies tonight, haven't I? I don't have a standout player, but I do have a group of people who have stood out to me as much as the players, and that's the referees. I have been so stoked with the fact that by and large, the referees are letting the game play. They're not getting caught up in the play acting. They're not getting caught up in players going down over minimal contact. I know you and I, during the Turkey-Italy game, RJ, were discussing at depth that, you thought maybe the ref was being a bit lenient at times, but I'd kind of said to you, as long as they're consistent and they let the play be physical, I have no issue with it. And I think overall, the refereeing with the Ericsson incident and how that was dealt with, the physical play overall, the lack of controversy, it's just been beautiful that we can sit and talk about this pod, or YouTube now, moving into that world, and we're not having to blow up over controversy. Isn't it nice? I think the refs, kudos to them, have been absolutely phenomenal and set a really high standard.
I 100% agree with that, Borg. And I've seen so much people saying on Twitter, man, this competition is embarrassing, like the Premier League's refereeing and the Premier League's use of the VAR, because that's another thing. I know it's in the same kind of section as the refereeing, but the VAR has been really used as I think everyone wants it to be used, And like I said, I'll take that first game, for example. I was shouting out for a few handballs that, I thought could have been won. But, you showed me that new rule that UEFA bring out. And I have to say, consistent over the whole first match day one in all aspects, man. And not only just that, when they do make a decision to go to the VAR, it feels like it's done in 10 seconds. Quick.
It's not a spectacle. It's not dominating. It's get it done. Decisions made. Play on. I've been honestly, referees better not say that they get no love on the It's a Football Thing podcast, because
No, I agree. I think, look, it's always been the desire to bring in technology to minimize the volume and the grievous nature of some of these errors. I think what we've found so far, touch wood, it stays this way, is that even though, in my opinion, we might not get 100% accuracy with some of these calls, because I do think there are some things where, geez, if your team was on the wrong side of that and you lost by a narrow margin, you probably wouldn't be as complimentary. But the good thing is, at least, just like you said, Scott, they're being consistent. There's nothing too dramatic that they're getting wrong. So even if you're sacrificing a little bit of accuracy, you're getting an improved product at the end of it all. So yeah, kudos to the way that they're officiating it, and then hopefully that the FA got their notebook out and taking a few notes, because that's how refereeing should occur.
And fans will cop a mistake as long as they're consistent, and as long as they're letting the play go and not turning it into a big giant spectacle. So
but even the media coverage, Scott, sorry, just to interject, but even the media coverage is really good on the fact that they're not harping on about potentially controversial things, like they're not focusing on calls. Exactly. Get back to the football. That's it.
Yep. It's nice that it hasn't also been a penalty fest. Like the last World Cup was every single game, penalty. And players were looking for, everything's going to be looked at carefully. That's going to be so easy. I think there's been 2 penalties in the whole match day one. And I like it. And it's kind of said to the players now that they're not going to be awarding everything, and they're not diving as much, I think, after the first few haven't been caught in. Like I said, I completely agree with what you said, Boogie. Really happy with the refereeing.
Look, we've had a chance to share some highlights of ours from, match day one. We put out our question of the week, and our question of the week was around some of the listeners' highlights. And it's really nice to be able to do this on YouTube and show some of the accounts. I would recommend, if you're on Twitter, you follow some of these guys, because they have great insight. We had Dan Hill reply with 2 highlights. Dan's a really good friend of the pod. For him, the Italy performance against Turkey, fluid possession-based attacking football that was awesome to watch, and controlled by Jorginho. You can tell Dan's a Chelsea fan. And that Patrick Schick goal against Scotland. I've really enjoyed the memes from that goal as well. They've been quite funny to watch. We had Matt J. Ball. His highlight was the Ukraine-Netherlands match, echoing what we said, boys, before. He said Ukraine were brilliant and deserved to win it. The Yarmolenko goal was so good. and he's actually backing Ukraine to get to the knockouts and create some controversy.
Good man.
Yeah, interesting thoughts there. RJ, or I don't know if you want to read this next one.
Yeah, so just on Matchday Ball as well, he runs a pretty good podcast, the Worldwide Chelsea, and it's funny, the last episode they were talking about, they were in the middle of the Ukraine-Netherlands match and both of Ukraine's goals had come back and then Netherlands at the end, and you could feel the frustration from poor Matty, but I'm with you, mate. They're going to come back next game. That Chelsea podcast, they're another champion sort of pod that I like to follow, and I recommend you check them out if for any Chelsea-related content. A few highlights. It's coming home, 3 Lions. I'm not sure I agree with you boys, but I reckon we'll meet you in the finals.
Yeah, it's been coming home since 1966, man.
It's a long drive, you see. It's coming. It's a very long drive to get home.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
They got lost. The nav wasn't working.
But point 2, the second highlight, the Kante Ballon d'Or charge is firmly on. He, can he or Kante, as like some like to say. And the third one, Ukraine-Netherlands, best game so far. And then this is the comment, Scott, you're referring to. Other note, can we kick Spain out? That was like watching Sarri ball at 0.25 speed. I struggled to watch that game for more than a few minutes at a time. So yeah, that was the one you referred to before.
Yeah, look,
and then Maxi Arsenal one, Scott.
Yeah, and I wanted to give him a bit of a shout out. He runs a Fantasy Premier League podcast as well. We'll try and link it maybe in our episode tweet. And he said, is the Euro 2020 fantasy perspective something we can talk about? He said a clean sheet and a goal assist from Munier. And it's funny that he points that out because I'm just going to have to change my screen here for those watching on YouTube. We had a little bit of a chat about the Fantasy Euro comp, and we had, how many was it? Was it 60?
63.
63 of you joined. Thank you for doing that. That's more than we expected. We're so grateful to have you. But Max, he is at the top. Maxi is leading the It's a Football Thing competition with 74 points. So look out for him, guys. He knows his stuff. This is one of his.
Did he use some bonus points and triple wild cards or something that we're not aware of? Or?
No, he's too good for that. I invited him to join us with a lot of reluctance because I know he knows his stuff. But Robbie, did you know where we fell? I don't want to scroll down too far because I'll get a sore hand.
I did, boys. Well, I'm top 10. I'm in 9th at the moment. I'm pretty sure you're 29th, and I think RJ's 49th. So you guys have got a bit. You got to pull up your socks a bit for match day 2 because
you don't win competitions in round 1, as they say.
That's it. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, absolutely. Robbie, I know you had some fixtures for us because we were going to look ahead to the second match day, which is coming up, starting really
11
soon.
o'clock tonight. Yeah.
We're only a few hours away from the first game, so we're an hour and a half away, boys. Any games, Robbie?
Yeah, I won't go through all of them again. I'll pick out the highlights of the match day again. So we'll start with our beloved Italy versus Switzerland tomorrow morning.
I'll go first on that one. Yeah, I think we'll take this one. I'm trying not to be arrogant, but I'm going to back my confidence. I trust Uzuri. We're going to get the job done 2-0.
Exactly what he said.
Yeah, I'm going to go 1-0. We might go Denmark versus Belgium.
Oh, I think Belgium get this done 2-0.
Croatia versus... sorry, man.
2-0 you said to Belgium? I think 2-1.
I think that it's going to be 3-0 to Belgium.
Interesting.
We'll go Croatia, Czech Republic. This one's an important one.
What's your call, Robbie, on that?
I think that Czech is going to get a point out of this. I'm going to go 1-1.
I like that. You read my mind, mate. I'm with you, 1-1.
No, I think I'm going to check this out. I'm going to give the win to our Croatian sensation, Kovacic, to have a starring role and help them win 2-1.
All right, boys, the British derby. England versus Scotland.
3-0 England.
I think it'll be 2-0 to England.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Scotty on this one, 3-0. I think Harry Kane's going to come out They're going to wipe the floor with Scotland in this one.
I transferred him out of my fantasy team, so he probably will.
Hungary and France. Borgie, you can go first on this one.
3-0 France.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm going 3-0.
Yeah, we'll go hat-trick, 3-0 goals.
Wow.
2 more, boys. Spain, Poland.
When they're supposed to be good games, Robbie, you're meant to be calling out. What's going on here, mate?
I'm predicting I won't fall asleep as many times as I did in Spain's last game. I'm going to go with Spain 2-1.
I'm going to go Spain 1-0. Yeah, with you, Rob. 1-0. Yeah.
And last one, boys. It should be a cracker. Portugal versus Germany.
Rob, why don't you go first, mate? Buy us some time.
Look, boys, I think Portugal's going to get the job done here. I think that Germany is going to go 0-2, so I'm going to go Portugal 2-0.
You think so, really? Ah. I think you're just a little bit biased, mate. I think you've got the Man United bias there. But no, look, Portugal got that win. I do think the result flattered them. And I know Germany lost, but I reckon they're going to bounce back. I saw enough signs in them that they're not done and dusted here. They need the win. Portugal don't need the win, and I think that's what's going to make the difference here. And I think they're going to get the job done 2-1.
I'm going with a 1-1 draw.
Yeah.
I can't see these guys, someone winning clear. Were they the last ones, Robbie?
Yeah, that's it, boys.
But, boys, time flies when you're having fun. We're almost at an hour. Thought we might finish off with some quick fires. Just some random questions, bit of fun. Robbie, do you want to go first, mate?
All right, boys. Favourite dessert?
I'll give you 2, and you can tell me which one you like. No, I'm just kidding. I'll highlight 2.
Just one.
Avocado cake and apple pie. If I had to pick between the 2, because that's your question, I'm going with apple pie.
Yeah, thanks for getting off the fence once, mate.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Nutella waffles, mate.
You
are a waffle.
I'll go panna cotta, mate. I love vanilla bean panna cotta.
Okay.
Fancy.
Okay. Boys, I might do the next one. Now, you might have to go back to some of your teenage years. Well, you might, Arj. What's one of the worst fashion trends that you've had a crack at? I'm happy to start to buy you boys some time. In my first year of uni, I had really curly afro-ish hair, a little bit like Fellaini back in his heyday. And I decided to go and get it chemically straightened. And it was around at the time Australia were playing Uruguay, and Harry Kewell had the 3 ponytails. So like one here, and one here. I went to uni one day with the 3 ponytails, and then I tried the little headband that made my hair pop out, a bit like a young Cesc Fabregas. And I regret both of those decisions. I'm glad there's no photographic evidence.
You can go next.
I don't know, man. Because I'm a fashionista. Those that know me, I'm 11 out of 10 all the time. But who knows? I don't know. What's the worst fashion choice? Probably my current hairstyle. That's probably not great. So, look, I think maybe back in the old days before the old family setup, I reckon maybe my nightclubbing dress code at times was a bit suspect with my V-neck shirts. Who knows? But I thought they were great. But I'm sure people will look back and say, "What are you doing?" So we'll go with that.
Robbie? Yeah, I've got to be your haircut now.
Mate, I love the man bun, mate. It's going good.
Mate, you look like an onion.
Wait, believe it or not, when I was 18, I had the good old wog mullet, mate. Had nice curls, mate, a bit like the wog boy. But I did love that, so it's not my worst. I don't know. It's a hard one, this one. I'm just going to say maybe around about year 7. I think everyone went through that kind of breakdancing, skaters kind of thing. Do you remember the brand SMP?
Yes.
And everyone remember those skaters belts that used to hang down and stuff like that? Those ones and those those tennis hats that don't actually have something on the top, the visors.
Ah, yes.
Yes, I think I remember them. So yeah, I'll say that.
I'm glad.
Were you a bum bag kind of guy too, Robbie?
100%, mate.
I could see it. Yes. And round off the last last question of the week is well, quick fire, I should say, is football related. Favorite free kick you've seen?
Easy. Roberto Carlos against France. Even though it hurt at the
Nice.
time, what a free kick.
I've seen some crackers, but just top of my head that came in 2014 World Cup. David Luiz, I think against Colombia, mate. I think that was a cracker of a free kick.
Arsenal legend.
Yeah, my favourite one from a buyer's point of view was the Chelsea Tottenham FA Cup semi final. Lampard like 38 yards out, sort of in the bottom corner.
I think Ronaldo definitely has to get a quick shout out for that one, and I think it was
The Portsmouth one.
Portsmouth. Yeah, mate.
Yeah. I was thinking
the
that
knuckle
too.
ball, mate.
Boys, 1 hour. Time truly does fly when you're having fun. Great show, boys. I really enjoyed that. Looking forward to match day 2.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to match day 2.
Yeah, it's actually going to be huge, isn't it? No, not at all, Robbie. I think, it's funny because you go into these sort of shows thinking, oh, we'll quickly skim through each one and pick out our key call-outs, etc. But by the time you get stuck into it, as we like to do each episode, you don't realise just how much there is to go through and unpack. So, yeah, another hour. Where did the time go?
Yeah, so I'm definitely excited. Like the first match day is always like, we don't know what's going to happen and stuff. But after you see that first one, you kind of get a little bit of an idea what's happening. And I actually think out of the 3 match days, 2 is the best because that's when the teams in different situations have got to make a move. If they've lost, they need a win. If you've had a win, you want to wrap up the group so you can maybe rest your players for match day 3. So there's a couple of good games there, and I'm looking forward to not sleeping again.
Well, speaking of sleeping, I think maybe us here down under should probably try to log off now and try to get some sleep heading into the start of match day 2. But before we do that, of course, we just want to say thank you very much again for tuning in to our special segment of It's a Football Thing via the It's a Euro Thing series. Those that are listening via audio, continue to please subscribe and rate our episodes as it does help with the pod. And for those who have kindly joined us via YouTube, it's pretty important for us if you just like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss another upload. But until then, let's enjoy another match day round of the Euros. And any final words, boys?
Have a good one, and Forza Italia.
That's my
Put the
final
Coke cans down, Scott, for the listeners online.
Cristiano, get your heart out, my man.
Over and out, boys. Take it easy,
Pleasure. Over
guys.
and out.